For today's video, we have another episode of Send Me Your Team. So the first one, I got a fair few responses. People sending me their team via our Facebook page, the Jordan Supercoach Facebook page. Appreciate if you could give that a like. And yeah, DM me there and I might feature your team in a video. I have one request, and that's please send me a proper screenshot. So far too many people are sending me, they've taken a picture of their laptop with their phone, or they've taken a screenshot with their phone and sent it to me. I need a desktop screenshot like this, so with the money and everything in it, just so I don't have to remake the whole team myself. But yeah, so I appreciate everyone that's sent in their team so far. But yeah, without further ado, we'll get into the first team, and the first team we have here is Adam's team. So it looks like a pretty balanced team. I think about 13 potential keepers here, so that's good. I do like 13. 12, I'm not really sure on. It depends on the rookies, I think. But yeah, still there's a lot of expensive players we have to pay for this year, so it's a little hard to fit in. But see how we go with which rookies get named. But I think the defense, Lloyd and Laird, standard, really good. Jaden Short's an interesting one because it is hard because he isn't as proven as a lot of the other options. But with the new rules, with the man on the mark has to stay still. So that's what he does. He's a meters game player. That should only affect him. Just gives him more options to kick, more opportunities to kick longer, you would think. So it should help him a little bit. And Basher Hooley is still injured. So I believe Short averaged 101 last year with Hooley out of the team and 95 with Hooley in the team. And historically, he's always done better without Hooley. I think it's just a matter of if he can back up his fantastic 2020 season. I think he's a decent price, but I do like the Short pick. Zach Williams, I've made it well known that I'm not the biggest fan of the Zach Williams pick. I think he's a gun. Should have been All-Australian 2 years ago, but far too many soft tissue injuries, and you don't want him to get injured at the wrong time. And also all the knocks and stuff like that. Won't play 22 games. I get it. His value does enable your team elsewhere. Just if you want to get that extra premium in, or maybe you really need Will Phillips. That's if Will Phillips plays, of course. But yeah, I understand it, and it might be worth the risk, but the chances of him getting injured are far too high for my liking. So I get it if you want to pick him, but yeah, just be wary. Wouldn't want to pick too much risk elsewhere. But it doesn't look like there's too much risk elsewhere. The midfield is fine. Neil and Oliver is really nice. Patrick Cripps, is he a lock? I'm not sure he's a lock, but ceiling, it's a little hard to ignore Cripps at his price, so I'm starting to endorse the pick a little bit more now. Simpkin and Taranto. So I wouldn't be going two of Simpkin and Taranto in the midfield, especially because they have the early buy, so it's going to be harder to flip them if you wanted to do that during the buy. So with Simpkin, I've thought about this pick a little bit and read a few opinions on Simpkin, and the more I think about it, the more uncertain I am on Simpkin, because we're hearing a lot of good things from North, and which is fine, I guess, but he's standing out at training, destroying time trials. But to be a super premium or like a 110 plus player, or even 115 plus maybe this year, it's very difficult, and he's never really gotten close to that for a full season, especially in full length games. So there's a lot of uncertainty. There's no doubt he'll deliver on value. And look, low hundreds average is still pretty good for his price. You wouldn't want that and Taranto in your team, because that's probably what Taranto is going to do as well. So I would only pick one of Simpkin or Taranto. Still a few question marks on Simpkin, and just the fact that I don't know if he checked out in some games because he was playing injured a bit last year, but there's some games where he was dropping 40s and 50s playing through injury. It doesn't really sit well with you. So when Josh Kelly seems to play through soreness or injury, I suppose it depends on the injury. He'd still average like 90 or 100 or something in those games when he was carrying something. So yeah, Simpkin does have bust potential, but all signs point towards a really good season for Simpkin. But yeah, I wouldn't pair him with Taranto. Not the biggest fan of Taranto. He checked out last year when the hubs came in, and if we get hubs again, who's to say he won't check out again? Averaged like 80 something, and he's lost a lot of CBAs, but you expect him to get more CBAs this year. Just horribly out of form, and I think his disposal holds him back from being a really like a 110 plus player. So I think Taranto is anywhere between 95 and 105. So for his price, I guess it's okay, but again, I would only run one of Simpkin on Taranto. The rookies are fine. Again, with Campbell, I'm not sure we're going to I don't think Campbell's going to score a whole lot. He just needs to play defence and take kickouts for him to score to be acceptable, I think. Or there has to be 0 other rookies, but I'm not the biggest fan, based on his junior numbers anyway. Gordon Grundy's fine, and the forward line F1, F2, Duncan Marshall really solid, and Zebo MP completely fine. Rookies look fine. We'll see how we go for rookies, but yeah, I think it's a solid team. I think the main thing is I would pick one of Simpkin and Taranto, then figure out what to do with that cash. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah. Anyway, thanks for your team, Adam. The next team we have is Alex's team. So thanks for sending me your team, Alex. An interesting defence here. So Lloyd McDonald, lads in the midfield, so that's fine. Liam Duggan, I think I should touch on this one. So we're hearing a lot of good things on Liam Duggan. I wasn't super impressed with him last year in the midfield, but he should get more opportunity with Yo out early. And does that change when Yo comes back in later in the season? I'm not sure, but Simo was saying that we drafted Duggan as a midfielder, so it seems like he's here to play midfield. It's hard to pick Duggan when there's a lot of other proven options, so the mid-time's going to be there, the value is there with him, but again, can he do it for 22 games? Can he get that midfield time for 22 games, and is he going to be a premium? It's a few question marks, and I need to see it in the preseason, I think, to be sold on him, but it's unlikely. And James Harms we have here is an interesting one. I actually like the Harms pick, but I think it's going to depend on the circumstances. So Angus Brayshaw is currently injured, as is Jack Viney. If they're out for an extended period of time, it sounds like there should be, I'm not sure on Brayshaw, but it sounds like Viney should be back in time. I think he'll score well in the midfield, because this is actually in terms of defence standards for premiums, this is a proven premium. He's averaged 95 before. So in the year before that, when he was still a lot younger, 83. So really strong, really good defensive midfielder from what I've heard from James Harm. So I think if we can figure out how much mid-time he's going to get, or especially if Viney or Brayshaw are out for a few weeks, I think it's an okay pick, but we need to see it in the pre-season first. But playing back in the midfield, hopefully he stays there. Apparently in training he played midfield and rested at half forward, but we'll see. I think, yeah, for 350k, especially the other options, Hayden Young and Wayne Miller are super injury prone, it seems, so it makes it hard to try and pick someone there. There is the argument, well, you might as well go to Zach Williams for another 100k, but again, Williams is kind of injury prone, but yeah, wait and see on James Harms. I wouldn't rule him out as a pick just yet. Defenders are fine, worry about, they'll take care of itself. Neil Oliver, Laird, that's completely fine. Sam Walsh is an interesting one. I just wonder about his inside mid-time with all their inside mids that they have, and I think, yeah, he's clearly a lot better than whatever other wing options they have. Has the endurance to play wing. Disposal sort of improved in the back half of the year as well. So, hearing huge things on Sam Walsh, kicked 3 goals in an intra-club that was completely one-sided, so wouldn't read too much into that. But, yeah, I don't mind the Walsh pick. I just think it's potential to not reach the 110. But yeah, it was fantastic in the second half of last year. So yeah, I didn't see why not with Walsh. Jai Simpkin, I spoke about Simpkin in the other video. A bit of a risk. Would you run Simpkin and Walsh? I'm not too sure. Still got the Dogs mids and maybe Petrarca to bring in, Jack Steele, plus anyone else who pops up. It does present a lot of value though, so I don't mind the Simpkin pick. It's just that both Simpkin and Walsh are uncertain to hit 105, let alone 110. So, yeah, I'm not too sure. I'd probably just run one of Simpkin and Walsh, but if you really like both, that's completely fine. Haley's okay. Haley we need to watch in the pre-season. I mentioned in other videos, I just need to figure out where Haley is in the pecking order at the Crows, because I'm not too sure yet. But again, I've said this many times, he's the only big-bodied Crow, so he will be required to be in that inside midfield, and he was recruited, in contract negotiations, he's supposed to play midfield. That's what he was offered anyway. So I think it's fine, rookies take care of itself. Maybe we need Will Phillips, not too sure yet. Gordon Grundy's fine, Dunkley Marshall fantastic, and then yeah, pretty standard, Danaher, MP. I'm not sure Perkins plays, we'll see, and if he does, it might be a bit more forward. So at that price range, I'm not too sure. Probably if Cahill plays, maybe he's better, but again, I'm not too sure on his job security, so wouldn't bank on Perkins, but maybe we can get a replacement rookie there. Probably can get Cockatoo in. Seems to be a fine pick at the moment, but I know he's injury prone. Use that 50k wherever you want. So yeah, thanks for your team, Alex. The next team we have is Daimo's team. So interesting here. So this team sort of looks like a combination of the teams we've just seen, with a few picks that I'm a little bit iffy on. Overall, I like the team. I think the structure looks really solid. Jaden Short I've just spoken about. I think Jaden Short will be a good pick. What's actually interesting is today it was announced that we're not going to get Thursday night team sheets anymore. We're just going to get the team sheets the day before the game. And one of the problems is we don't really know the defensive structure we can go with, because we're not sure what defensive rookies we're going to get. And with Jaden Short, you'd have to lock him in early and lock him in. So for me, I have Jaden Short right now, but he's my flex pick if something goes wrong, if we don't get rookies or something. But that's going to be very difficult. So if you're really sold on Jaden Short, I suppose you could potentially, depending on the rookie situation, you could prepare Tom Stewart in place of Short, just because we don't have to lock in Tom Stewart as early as Jaden Short. But that's a whole separate issue anyway. But yeah, so I think Zach Williams I've spoken about. I'm not too sure on Zach Williams. Just injury prone, and yeah, there's nothing else to say other than he's injury prone. I've heard some things that he could play a little bit half forward as well. I know he's played half forward a bit in Giants pre-season, because there's a few places that rotate through that inside mid at Carlton, but I think he'll still score fine there. He's a bit of wouldn't say a pig, but he knows how to find the pill. So Zach Williams, I guess it's okay if you really like him, but ideally I'd get him up to Stewart just for that durability, but not sure we're going to find the cash. And Neil and Oliver, Cripps is fine. And I've spoken about Simpkin and Taranto just before. I would only run one of Simpkin and Taranto. Simpkin has probably a higher ceiling, and Taranto's disposal just lets him down constantly. And Braden Campbell, I don't think we'll need Braden Campbell, to be honest. I think we'll get quite a few forward rookies, but it's still a bit of guesswork. But yeah, forward line looks, rucks are fine. The forward line looks pretty good. Zeeble, Impey. So yeah, Zeeble's doing well at halfback at the moment, so he could actually, I don't think he could be a D6, but you think of like Luke Hodge and Matthew Boyd, I think that's who Zeeble mentioned, although Zeeble's not fit to tie their shoes. Leaders going back later in their career, apparently he sees the ball really well. Apparently his skills are really good, even though his kicking efficiency is 57%. So I don't mind the Zeeble pick at all, to be honest. But hearing some good things, not saying that he's amazing at halfback, but still being trialled there and playing okay at the moment. So see how Zeeble goes. Hopefully he stays injury free. I don't mind no Danaher, I think that's okay. So overall, I think the team's quite good. It's just a question of, I would not start Taranto. I think Campbell and Taranto should become somebody else. Maybe, I'm not too sure. But I don't know, I would figure out what to do with Taranto and Campbell, turn them into a premium and a base rookie. So, so Campbell's probably not going to score much, but yeah, we'll see. So thanks for your team, Daimo. The next team we have is Duncan's team. So interesting team here. It's a little bit dimmed for some reason, the team, but nonetheless, some interesting picks here. Quite interesting. A lot of Taranto. I don't know why I've picked all the teams with Taranto. But anyway, so this defense line looks pretty solid. I think, yeah, Lloyd, Laird and Short seems pretty solid. Stewart's probably a bit more safer than Short, but I've spoken about Short quite a few times. Seen a few teams with Short in it today. But yeah, I like the Short pick. And Miller is another one. Miller stresses me out because I'm not sure how good he is. 2 years ago, he was all the hype for the Crows, playing really well at halfback, and then started off really well. I think averaged 90 for the first 5 or so rounds. Then he got injured, moved around the ground, and played some of the worst football I've seen. So, yeah, Miller is an interesting one. I think he's a confidence player, but not too sure on Miller. I think if I spoke about Harms earlier this video. If the circumstances are right for Harms, if Viney or Brayshaw go down for a while, I think Harms is a better pick, but we'll see. And then, yeah, rookies of mine, that'll take care of itself. Now the midfield, no Lockie Neal. So what do I think of no Lockie Neal? A little risky, but I get it. He is a captain option, which makes it harder. He might get tagged in round 1 by Hewer, and he's clearly overpriced. I remember I read somewhere in the first half of last year, his time on ground was like almost 100%. You think that'll drop back to low 90s again, so that would have inflated his score a little bit. So Lockie Neal, I think you can start without him, to be honest. I'm not totally against it. It feels like a bet though without Lockie Neal, because if he starts hot again, he's going to be out of range, and that's one of the reasons why I like starting the real expensive guys, because you probably know what you're going to get from them, maybe a little bit under what they're priced, but trying to trade in Lockie Neal, you leave it to timing, and that makes things very difficult, because if he gets out of control, he's out of control, but he's very expensive, and not starting Neal can really enable your team elsewhere, maybe even an extra premium elsewhere, so I get it. Jack Steele I love. Petrarca is an interesting one. With Wiedemann and... who is it? Wiedemann and Ben Brown both out. Does that mean Petrarca has to play more forward? I know they've recruited... I think they've recruited Magic Door to play forward for Melbourne, so... I thought he was better as a defender, to be honest, Magic, but they obviously the two best forwards are out, so they need somebody. I don't mind Petrarca. There's still questions over his tank, but I think he'll put them to bed. Maybe not this year, maybe in coming years, but I'm not exactly sure. But from what I've read on Petrarca this year, apparently he's looking fantastic in the preseason. So I don't mind the Petrarca pick at all, and he's one that I think he has a 130 average in him at some point. Not necessarily this year, but we'll see. Well, 130 is pretty hard to reach, but maybe we'll see. Cripps is fine. Rao is sort of a watch because of the shoulder. If it wasn't for the shoulder, I'd lock Rao in, but we'll see. He did have an intra-club a few days ago, and we've heard nothing on it. So I'd like to hear something from that. Again, at Taranto, I wouldn't pick Taranto. I know he's 450k, but his best average is 102. Having a great preseason, but lost some CBAs. Checked out last year, which I didn't like. I suppose it is difficult for the hub life, but yeah, Josh Dunkley would never use hub life for an excuse. That's the sort of players we want. But yeah. Even though Grundy was poor with hub life, he still performed at a reasonable level. Still top 3 or 4 ruck despite a poor year from him. So yeah, I think Taranto's disposal holds him back too much. Haley's still a watch again. I've said it before. Still figuring out where he is in the pecking order. And now we have an interesting one. Riley O'Brien in the rucks. So the thing with Riley O'Brien is he probably has to become Gawn at some stage. And I think Rob is probably our guy when Gawn declines. Having a great preseason, Rob, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 110 plus. Could go 115 depending on how much his tap work's improved. So it's just very hard to go past Gawn because Gawn is the go-to captain. So we'll see on that. And yeah, the forward line, Dunkley Marshall's fantastic. DeGoey could be in jail at some point, but I believe his court case has been delayed till August. But here's the thing with DeGoey, he scored poorly in the midfield at the start of last year, at the start of 2020, where he got a bit more mid-minutes, didn't do very well there. He just scores better as a forward, so as far as we know, he's having a really strong, his best ever pre-season and wants to play more midfield time. Not sure he can score there. Not sure if he goes back to the forward line, and not sure he has a jail-free card. So, not too sure on DeGoey. It seems high risk, so maybe just wait and see on DeGoey. Pay a bit extra if he explodes or something, and has his court case delayed. And yeah, the rest, Danaher, Impey is probably fine. Starting to think Zeebel's better than Danaher, but we'll see how Zeebel goes in that role. But yeah, Will Kelly here. I think Will Kelly's done multiple injuries this preseason, so it might be an upgrade target. So. Thanks for your team. The final team we have here is Tom's team. So thanks for your team, Tom. We have an interesting defence here. So no Jake Lloyd. Now, can you start without Jake Lloyd this year? I believe you can. And while it's going to be a pain to get him in, and I understand that, with Jake Lloyd, he's not really a captain option. Maybe a fullback captain option if others fail, but since we have a few in the midfield, and obviously Gawn and Grundy can be captain options, but because he's not a captain option, he's priced at his absolute max, and if it enables you to get an extra premium in, I actually don't mind no Jake Lloyd. yeah, you're probably going to miss out on him, maybe miss out on 115 plus average, but he's very expensive, and you probably get him cheaper, not too cheaper, maybe like low 600s, so a tad cheaper, but yeah, he's priced at his absolute max, and there is the chance he loses kickouts to Campbell or Gould or Dawson, depending on how Horse wants to go that, but I kind of think that Longmire's demonstrated that he likes Jake Lloyd on those kickouts for years now. So I'm not sure that changes, but it is a possibility. Campbell was taking kickouts at training the other day, so we'll see. But yeah, no Jake Lloyd, I get it, it's fine. If it was still Oliver, Neal and Lloyd, if I had to get rid of one, I think it's Jake Lloyd, unless there's no defender rookies. But yeah, Callum Mills is an interesting one. I'm not sure what he can do in the midfield, that's the thing. Just because you can score well in defence doesn't mean you can score well in the midfield. Watch how he goes in the preseason. So I'd rather wait on Callum Mills, but yeah, I think need to see a bit more. Stewart pretty safe, and McDonald, I'm a fan of the McDonald pick, but of course he is a risk because I'm not sure how Noble wants to use him, but it seems to be that he was playing that seagull role in the intra-club from what I've heard. So, well, yes, I did read that he was just mopping up in defence anyway, so need to see the role for McDonald, but if he gets it, it's going to be hard to see him move from that role because they really have nobody else. They've had to put Zeeble back there as well, so keep an eye on the McDonald pick, rookies or whatever. No Lachie Neale. I think it's okay. This is a decent midfield, I think. Walsh and Rao, the two chosen ones. I think that's fine. I think Walsh is. I think he works too hard to drop off Sam Walsh. I think Walsh will be a fine pick. Matt Rao, I think Matt Rao will be fine. It just depends on his shoulder. So still a watch for Matt Rao. Wouldn't lock him in. And yeah, Gawn, Grundy, Dunkley, Marshall. How many keepers? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 keepers. So running no Neale and no Lloyd has given him 14 potential keepers, which is fantastic, I think. Really good. It means you've sacrificed Will Phillips, who might be a must-have. We'll see how he goes. But yeah, that's really good to fit in 14 keepers. It's just that while you have less upgrades to do than other people, you got to remember getting in Lloyd and Neale, it's going to take an extra trade. So yeah, but it does get a rookie off the field. I'm not exactly sure which is better or not, having more or less keepers by sacrificing the absolute big dogs, but I think I have to look more into that myself. So Isaac Heaney, Heaney's playing forward, and the thing with Heaney is, even though he's averaged 90 something last year, one of those games he was seriously inflated by playing the Crows in their worst form. Also played North as well, so played the two bottom teams. Up forward, so scored big in those games, and that kind of carried his average. Otherwise, he would have been a lot cheaper. Could have been 400k if he didn't play those teams. So, not a fan of Heaney. Just interrupted preseason, lots more forward time, and just injury prone. So, even though he plays through injury, so not a fan of the Heaney pick at all. But yeah, other than that, I think it's good, interesting team, and I don't mind going for 14 keepers. I personally would probably cut it down to 13, get rid of Heaney and spread some rookie, pay a bit more for rookies, maybe get Zeeble if he comes good for Heaney, and then pay up for rookies, because it seems like you're running a fair few base rookies, just in case as insurance to, if you cut, be prepared to cut Heaney if you have to. That's pretty much what I'm saying. But you don't have to if you don't want. I get it if that's what you want. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for sending me your team. If you want your team on this video, send me your team with a proper screenshot, and I might feature it in a video. So that's all from me, and thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.